As I began high school, I dreamed of hearing a symphony of sizzling pans, instructions being yelled out across a room full of constant motion, the motion of working in a professional kitchen, and the harmonious flickers of flames prepping sauces, proteins, garnishes, and starches all to come together in synergy to create a final product. My name is Finnie Santiago Careaga-Coleman, and I will be a chef. This is the story of how I truly fell in love with the food industry while at Street Food Institute. My passion for food started well before I had heard of the Street Food Institute. My passion for cooking comes from my roots. The stories of how the kitchen and how food was the foundation of my family's triumph and success sparked my love for food. And I feel it is always necessary to acknowledge and remember where you started, as it is the only way to see how far you've come. Before I started working with Street Food Institute, I had only worked in a professional kitchen once, as an assistant cook for a few days. However, if you had asked me, I still would have said I wanted to be a chef, not knowing what being a part of a team in a kitchen honestly looked like. On my first day at Street Food Institute, I remember vividly walking into the kitchen and getting a quick tour from one of my two chefs, Julian. He then introduced me to the notorious dish pit. I remember him mentioning that no task was above anybody in this kitchen, likely thinking I wasn't trying to do dishes for my first day. Still, I was too busy and excited to be in the kitchen finally. I honestly did not care what my task was. But he did let me know that everything we do in the kitchen has a purpose, and the purpose of me doing these dishes was to learn where everything in the kitchen was. I left that day happy and excited to learn more. I continued to go in and grow and learn every time I stepped into the kitchen. My confidence grew as well, and I almost got cocky until my first and most humbling event I went on for my senior project. For some background, Street Food Institute is a nonprofit run out of CNM but has their own independent organization broken into three main categories. First, our community-driven classes, second, our catering, and third, our cafe. We have two chefs, Cristino and Julian. Chef Julian handled a lot of the catering and Cristino handled his fair share of events. Still, his main focus was the cafe and developing recipes for the events. Both of them worked as a team, and while they had their own focuses, they would split the work evenly when necessary if it was better for the team. For the fall semester, we focused more on catering and running the cafe to fund our class for the community. So when I joined the Street Food Institute, it was the beginning of our catering season. My first event for the year was the yearly green chili cheeseburger competition in Santa Fe at the Santa Fe Brewing Company. I was nervous but confident. Up until that point, I had just started my intro to culinary art classes and was unprepared for the long hours. I found myself working slower than everyone halfway through the event. Still, our burgers looked terrific, and compared to the other competitors, I was sure we would win. My ego did not help at all. But when the time came,
the People's Choice Award goes to Rio Chama.
We lost, and it crushed me. It also made me realize that I had a long way to go and that the food industry was seriously intense. For the whole car ride home, all I could think about was how we were cheated by the judges and deserved to win. Our burgers were presented and tasted the best. Still, when I think back, I think about all my sluggish moments and all the uneven plates I put out. I was not in the mindset of feeling regretful, but more trying to learn from those mistakes and grow from them. This is a lesson I learned over my time at Street Food Institute. Your mistakes are your most significant opportunities to grow with the correct mindset. I constantly remember my mistakes and try to grow from them for weeks, even months on end. As I continued to get deeper into my senior project, I would also get deeper into culinary school. At the start of my senior year, I decided to get as much experience as possible and take intro to culinary art classes. While the 12-hour days of class, constant homework, and work were not the best for my sanity, the growth in my skills that came from it outweighed how tiring it was for me by a lot. I learned an immense amount of information and skills that I will be able to carry with me throughout the rest of my career. I also realized something during a math class in the morning of late October. While zoning out, I started to daydream and hear the sounds of frying pans and metal clinking against the flat top. Chef Cristino giving out orders and Julie translating those orders into instructions for me. I began to get butterflies as if I was thinking about a crush. I realized then that I had genuinely fallen in love with the food industry. I remember shortly after this, events became easy. Even if they were physically straining, I loved doing it, making it 10 times easier. The biggest example of this was the fermentation festival, not because it was super challenging, but because it was my first time being on the flat top fully by myself. It was hot and intense and it lasted forever, yet I loved every second of it. Even when I had to force myself to step back to get water, I still wanted to do more. I will always remember this event because it was the first time I tried to do something without instructions from Chef Cristino, a Reuben with pastrami and Korean barbecue. Following my first semester, I fell into a slump. I had a lot of personal responsibilities on top of a wave of feeling like I had just lost a lot of my confidence. But I did get a job at Electric Playhouse, a company we collaborated with for a Halloween event. I continued to fall deeper in love with food, getting my first taste of making fine dining from start to finish. I was reminded that I had put in a total of 500 hours into culinary arts and food between September and February. Everything I did for those 500 hours genuinely does mean something, and it was my first time I felt the food industry more than anything was a safe space for me. The most significant change I made at Street Food Institute was coming in and not only meeting the expectations street food made for me, but far surpassing their expectations as well as mine. My mentor Tina agrees that I taught them that passion matters more than age and that everyone starts from somewhere. Nurturing that passion can lead to immense growth on both sides, student and mentee. If you ask any of my chefs and coworkers, they would say the same. As I think back to how I changed, I realize that I can answer this question in many ways. Physically becoming stronger, handling 12-hour days and entire shifts as a 17-year-old, as well as becoming much more confident and also learning that my path is much longer and tedious than I had ever imagined. I found the most critical growth for my future was in my mindset. As I mentioned before, I need help to balance being overconfident and needing more confidence. I used to tend to get punished for being out of balance by either falling into a spiral that bleeds into my whole life, or on the other side, falling behind from being complacent and feeling like I'm on top of the world, leading to me falling behind in essential aspects of my life. I've grown out of that now, and I feel I have found a healthy balance. Still, more importantly, since I've genuinely fallen in love with my craft, as long as I have a kitchen, I can pull my life together, and with the correct mindset, I can grow no matter where I am mentally. It also set me up for wherever my life takes me. The mindset and attitude I developed can be adapted into many different forms, all being the start of being successful in those pursuits and being able to create change and be great down my path in life. I think back to the dreams I had at the beginning of high school and realize now that Street Food Institute has allowed me to live those dreams truly and physically. I will never forget the Street Food Institute as the place that made me fall in love with not just food, but the industry behind the food.
These people ain't ready for me. The hardest times I'm a peak. She hasn't responded to me. It's going on 2 weeks, say. These people ain't ready for me. The hardest times I'm a peak.